you're single and you're looking for a date, the last couple of years have been tough because of this pandemic, they say. According to one recent survey, 63% of Americans who are single and looking say it's gotten a whole lot harder. Matchmaker Maria is doing what she can to help. Her real name is Maria Avgitidis. She's a fourth-generation matchmaker, so she knows a thing or two, we think, who's become famous on social media for her dating advice. She says she has set up more than 5,000 dates and helped thousands of singles find their match. She's also host of the podcast Ask a Matchmaker and CEO of Agape Match. Good morning to you, Matchmaker Maria. I'm so glad you're here. I'm so glad you're here. So what do you think is the biggest mistake men and women make? I always think on a first date, you always have to play that very tedious game of getting to know you, which is just so draining, I think, and exhausting. What's the biggest mistake both sexes make?
I think the biggest mistake people put is the emphasis on having a spark on the first date, which can be varied based on how you're sitting next to each other, what you're talking about, and also do you look like the photos if you met through online dating. What I always tell people is that the purpose of a first date is to go on a second date. And to determine that, you should ask yourself two questions. Did I enjoy myself? Am I still curious about them? If you say yes to both of those questions, you should go on a second date.
Yeah, so you say forget about finding the spark, because I always think you should kind of click right away. You say no.
No, because spark is usually rooted in anxiety. And think about the few times that you may have felt the spark and it still didn't go anywhere.
Yes.
Right, so that clearly that's not working as like a method of trying to figure out, okay, is this the person for me? Instead,
when you say curious about this person, do you mean curious to keep chatting or curious to tear each other's clothes off? I mean, that's part of dating,
not
is
both?
it not? Okay, both. Like, where is
Yeah, they don't have to be
physicality?
exclusive, right?
No, it's not mutually exclusive.
Yeah.
It could be both. I've set up, as Gayle said, I've set up 5,000 first dates, more than 5,000 first dates at this point. And one of the things that we see sometimes is that people will go on a fantastic first date. It'll be 3 hours long, but they don't want to see each other again. Why? It's not for lack of spark. It's not because they weren't attracted to each other. Usually it's because, I got everything I needed to know from them. I'm good.
Should people trust their head, their heart, or regions more southern?
So one of the things that I tend to promote is not having sexual relations, or sex rather, right away when you first start dating someone, because I think that can be a distraction in getting to know someone from an emotional compatibility standpoint.
What qualifies as right away? I never think sex on a first date is good. Even if I wanted to, I wouldn't just on GP. Because I remember my grandmother saying, "Why he won't buy the cow if he can get the milk for free." I never thought of myself as a cow, but I do think that there's something about that. Do you?
So I think one of the things that I've popularized is the 12-date rule method.
What's your definition of a date? 12 dates is a lot.
People think 12 dates is a lot, but it's really 2.5 weeks for most people.
Okay.
So to me, a date is anything that is, a phone call, a video call, or an in-person date that is 20 minutes to 3 hours. You can have up to 2 dates in one day. And this method is a way to make you intentionally get to know someone to discover, are you emotionally compatible before going to the next step? One of the things that I think in that method is seeing that you might not get to 12 dates with people because you'll recognize they don't really treat me well when I'm having a good day or when I'm having a bad day, or I don't know if they're necessarily emotionally resilient enough for me. And it takes away the distraction of sex.
So one of the things you also help people with their digital profiles. I mean, we were saying earlier, we didn't date in the era of apps. Well, I did, but I always preferred being out there in the wild, the thrill of victory, the agony of defeat. Like, that's the part that I like. Digital, I don't think I look good on paper.
So you experienced...
First of all, you definitely do.
I don't think so. I don't think I would rate on paper.
Right.
You do, but you experienced analog dating, and you were mentioning before we started taping, I guess, about that your nephew is 18, and he's never experienced analog dating, and he probably never will, because his generation has only known digital dating. So, with that being said, yes, we do take over, as a matchmaking service, we obviously do traditional matchmaking, but we also have an online dating management service where we take over online dating profile, experience none of the dating fatigue, let us swipe for you, let us message for you, and just set up the dates.
Them?
Yeah.
Wow.
And message and
set up dates.
I do like that. Asking for a friend, how much do you charge?
We'll talk about that later.
What's the?
We've been gift certificates.
We've been promoting all morning about you say wear the color green. Why is that?
Which I'm wearing now.
Tony is wearing
Oh my gosh, you
forest
are.
green.
Wow.
Yes, yes.
So when I was single and before, and even in dating, whenever I wear green, I notice that everyone comes and talks to me. I've been promoting it since 2012 in our programs, like women, you have to wear green because it is the color of vitality and it is the color that makes you feel like you are approachable. So as a result, whenever you wear green, people say, "Oh my God, you look good." Men remember that you wore green if you're a straight woman, and I think it's the color you should be wearing on first dates, the color you should be wearing when you're at a networking event, and absolutely the color you should be wearing when you're at the open bar, at a wedding, where you can meet other single people.
Green.
Okay. And again, really, how much do you charge? I'm serious.
We'll talk about it later.
You don't want to say? I'm
After
curious.
12 meetings, she'll tell you the rate.
Okay, all right. I am. I'm
Matchmaker
curious.
Maria, thank you very much. It's been a pleasure.
That sounds like it's
having-
expensive,
Please
Maria.
come back.